we got to get into you know what? I'm gonna shoot from the hip on this one. This is a topic that Jamie you made mention of, and I kind of want to take. I'm gonna get your thoughts and your theories on this, and I'm probably gonna run into YouTube and drop a poll into the chat here. Yesterday Dirt Griggity did they had the WBG show, which I was listening to as I was doing the wash today. And you know how I feel about Dirt, I feel about Sean, Ray Ray, and of course Joey. I love the dynamics that these guys have with each other. Their show is fun. I'm always in the chat. I see a lot of people in this chat that are always in that chat. And their show was fun. They make it fun. They are a necessary. I know. I don't do the console war like they do, but I think that they are not only incredibly funny on how they do it, but they're necessary to kind of keep the odds at bay, so to speak. So I love the work that they do. So there was a conversation that happened during yesterday's show that I thought was pretty interesting, and I want to really kind of get I want to get the chat involved in this one, because this one is going to be diversive. I really think there are going to be some people that say hell yeah, get it out, and there's going to be a bunch of people say hell no, that's part of the service, I want it there. And what I'm talking about is referring to something that Jamie Moran made mention of. Now, Jamie, you specifically made mention of Call of Duty. And one of the reports from earlier in the week was that somehow or another, Microsoft lost $300 million on the 4.2 million copies that weren't paid for on Xbox, that people played through their service for Black Ops 6. Now, this was a report from Bloomberg. And I'm going to be honest with you. I would say, well, it's Bloomberg, cash it in, it's legit. Here's the thing, though. If you go and you look and read this report, there are some important, jarring things that are missing from it. Now, the one thing that you'll hear from Game Pass subscribers is the word free, right? This is something that is used. It's a terminology that's done not to be facetious in any way, but when you pay for a service and you're not actually taking the money out of your wallet, like you would walk into, the gas station to pay for your $20 of unleaded, or walk into the grocery store and pay with your credit card or your cash, it's automatically being deducted. So for us, for a lot of consumers, we have this mentality of, oh, well, I'm getting, this game for free because it's in my service. And we don't really think about it because we're not actually taking the cash out of our pockets to pay. It's usually attached to a credit card, or you bought one of the 3-month cards and you stacked or whatever. So you don't really feel like you're paying. And you're not wrong for that. That's normal consumerism, right? But what was absent, Jamie and chat, from this report was people like me. And this is where I'm going to put myself on the stand, folks. And of course, you know how I feel about doing that. I'm transparent as all H. I like putting myself up front and I don't mind taking the arrows. It's perfectly fine if they come my way. For many, many years, only played Call of Duty for the campaign. You all know that, right? This is not new news. If you're been subscribed for a while, I've always been a campaign guy. Well, not anymore. I am a maximum prestiged COD player. I haven't played COD like this since the Xbox 360 days. I'm looking forward to Black Ops 7. I played the beta. I very much enjoyed it. I'm playing. There's a Predator skin coming to Black Ops 6 for their Halloween event. Freaking hell yeah. I'm spending, I don't care how much it is. I'm going to be running around as the Predator. Yes, freaking please. But what was absent and why I put myself on the stand, ladies and gentlemen, is because very simply, someone like me who normally would only play the campaign and now I'm invested in multiplayer. What was one of the first things that I did when after the beta for Black Ops 6? I upgraded to the Vault Edition. That was 30 bucks. Now, what did you get for the Vault Edition? I actually don't remember, to be honest with you. But needless to say, it was probably not worth the $30, but I got the Vault Edition nonetheless. So I upgraded. And then since then, and I'm not going to embarrass myself and tell you how much I've actually spent on skins because I probably have about 30 of them. Some I bought and I'm like, okay, so the first skin I bought was the dragon one. Do you remember that one? Anyone? It's like this. The wings are as big as the character, and I'm like, what a stupid ass for buying this. People could see me coming around the corner a mile away. I used it once, got killed a gazillion times. That's it. I'm not doing it. What a knucklehead. I'm not using the skin. But there are some that I've really enjoyed, and some I consistently go back and forth with. So I spent some money. That is important information when you consider the claims of loss. Now, granted, the 300 million in upfront sales for the actual disc or the game, yes, they lost those sales because of Xbox Game Pass. What's not in the report, and it's kind of one-sided, man, it really is, are new subscribers to Game Pass because of Call of Duty. How many people upgraded to the Vault Edition? That's absent. And how many people, okay, this is where it gets interesting, folks, decided because they got the game for free that they were going to buy DLC in the form of microtransactions and skins and guns and and COD coins. Because if you're not paying out of pocket, you are, and this is a proven fact, folks. I'm not making this up. This has been studied. You are more likely to spend on microtransactions for getting a game for quote unquote free. This is why the free to play model is so lucrative, because you're not paying for the game. You are more likely to spend money on microtransactions. And even though Call of Duty Black Ops 6 isn't free to play, Jamie Moran in chat, it is perceived as it being free to play because it's in your service. So I said all of that, ladies and gentlemen, to say and ask the question. And Jamie, I'm going to hand you the mic now. Black Ops 7 has already been advertised for Game Pass, but I want to kind of go into an alternate earth here and suggest, and I want the chat involved in this. You know where I'm going, folks. And if you listen to Dirt's show, and you should listen to Dirt's show, they asked a question. Jamie asked a question. What if, for the one exception, that Call of Duty was not put into Game Pass, but you would keep the old $20 price? Is that worth it? Jamie Moran, take it away, sir.
Yeah, like you're saying, the amount of money Call of Duty makes, it's not really as cut and dry as people might think. Because, like, yes, Call of Duty being in Game Pass may have lost Microsoft $300 million, but like you said, there's more people buying the Battle Pass. Like, I'll put this out there. I play Call of Duty for the campaign. I'm one of those nerds. I'm one of like the 5%. I play Warzone. I don't really touch multiplayer, and I've just gotten into zombies with the new beta. So, like, when it comes to traditional PvP, I don't really touch that much. I think in Warzone I've got like 85 wins now. Hooray for me. But like, Microsoft, like, they make money, like I was saying, they make more money off the battle passes now, the skins. Like, every time I play Warzone, there's people running around as Homelander. Ana de Armas, right? Like a £30 skin, right? Crazy. So, like, say Microsoft lost $300 million off, like, it being in Game Pass. doesn't really make much sense because the other numbers aren't being reported. And the reason I bring up the whole, like, what if Microsoft made it the one game that wasn't launching in Game Pass? And by the way, me merely mentioning this angers some people because they want Call of Duty in Game Pass. They think I'm taking away from them. Microsoft isn't going to listen to me. Right? I'm just one person saying this. I think that Microsoft putting Call of Duty in Game Pass is a great thing. One, it's the biggest thing you can basically advertise Game Pass for every time you advertise Game Pass, right? If you see a trailer for Game Pass, you're going to see Master Chief, you're going to see some fancy cars, you're going to see Call of Duty, all those types of things, right? Game Pass in these services aren't typically marketed with like smaller titles, not really. Towards the end of the year, we're probably going to see Expedition 33, mentioned in trailers. So, like, when it comes to Call of Duty, it's the biggest game of the year every year, unless, let's say, a Grand Theft Auto releases. I think that Microsoft could potentially look at Call of Duty as maybe the outlier. Like, look at Apple streaming, right? Apple streaming movies, they launch in the service. But do you know what didn't launch in the service this year? F1 the movie. F1 the movie came out, made a ridiculous amount of money. It made more money than people thought it would be because it was a Formula One movie, right? Formula One isn't that big in the US, but the movie did bloody well. Right? And that movie came to streaming, I believe, 3 months after the theatrical release. So, like, would it be the worst thing in the world if it was 3 months? Like, if that's the case, because, like, look, raising Xbox going up in price, I think was an inevitable thing. All of these services go up, Netflix, Disney Plus. But the problem is that if you raise your price of your service 50% like overnight, it's a bit much, right? Like it's nobody wants this. We see people complain about $1 for like Netflix every time that goes up $1, right?
Yes.
But 50% overnight, so that's a lot of money. You're getting into the territory where you may actually be pricing some people out of the top tier, right? So some people are going to have to go to the middle tier or the bottom tier, which means they aren't going to get day one games, right? And a lot of people do subscribe to Game Pass for the day one games. So, there's that. But however, if we just taken those numbers, the $300 million, and not taking in the microtransactions, not taking in, like you said, the Vault Edition upgrade, right? What if we do put those numbers in there as well? Maybe Microsoft don't even look at that $300 million as a loss because they have more people subscribing to Game Pass. They had a boost last year of Game Pass around Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So, like, all we have to do now is basically theorize what's going on behind the scenes because we don't know what's happening, right? We just know what journalists are posting about. These journalists know about how much Call of Duty potentially didn't make on Xbox. However, they don't know how much Microsoft made with microtransactions. However, we do know that Call of Duty prints money. And it's one of the few games that can like come out every single year with a $70 game. It sells out. Everyone's talking about it. And like, look, every single time I talk about the new Call of Duty game, do you know what I get in my replies? People hating on it. People saying, oh, Battlefield 6 is going to be better. And as you know, Boom, I'm a Battlefield fan, right? I used to play Battlefield 3 every day till my hands were bleeding, figuratively. And like all these people that are hating on Call of Duty at the minute, yeah, you're going to have a few that discover Battlefield for the first time. Good on them. However, you can't pick up and play Battlefield the way you do with Call of Duty. Battlefield is a very tactical, strict game. But Call of Duty, you can play casually, right? When I play Call of Duty and, do the PvP, I do terrible. Admittedly, I can't play like I used to. I had a 12-year gap in between playing Call of Duty multiplayer. My skills aren't what they used to be. However, I can just pick up, play Call of Duty, have some fun. with Battlefield, you're in the trenches, you're fighting for your life. Right? It's not like that. So like you're gonna have people that are hating on Call of Duty at the minute, but 3 months after launch, they're gonna realize maybe they don't want to sweat it out in multiplayer and Battlefield every single day. So they're gonna dabble into Call of Duty again. And Call of Duty is a very crisp, fun multiplayer shooter. But like back to the whole Game Pass thing, I think that we're just gonna have to wait for Microsoft to make a move, because when they tried to raise the price of Xbox Live Gold a couple of years ago, they literally reversed course in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
But Game Pass is a way bigger deal because it's everything in the service now. You have your multiplayer, you have your day one games and your library, and your cloud. So I think Microsoft. I don't know why people are talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 won't be in Game Pass. Nobody said that.
Dude, there's absolutely no way. Hell would have to freeze over 3 times over. That is not happening.
No, I think it's because I said Call of Duty is the biggest the biggest game every year when a Grand Theft Auto doesn't come out. I didn't mention Game Pass. But anyway, I think we're gonna have to see what Microsoft does, because like Microsoft might be decide behind the scenes what they're gonna do. But look, I love the fact that Call of Duty launches a Game Pass. I'm not saying personally, hey, Microsoft, by the way, while you're listening, take Call of Duty away from me this year. Like, no, I'm paying for Game Pass. I want first party games. Call of Duty is a first party game. Right? That's just the simple fact of it, right? I like getting Call of Duty and Game Pass. As someone that only plays the campaign and I dabble in Warzone, do I really want to pay £70 for a campaign how long is a Call of Duty campaign? Like 12 hours?
Maybe 12 hours. Yeah, give or take.
I don't want to pay £70 for a Call of Duty campaign. But in Game Pass, that I can do. It's just that, look, everything's all up in the air at the minute. People are like, as we're talking about, people on edge. But like, look, Game Pass, it's a great service. The price going up it's a kick in the gonads. Let's be honest, right? It's a good service with a uniquely bad situation. Because, like, look, can you imagine the reaction tomorrow if Netflix came out and said, "Hey, we're raising our price 50%"?
Be world news, dude.
Yeah,
like it
world
would be
news. Like hell, when Disney Plus had its price hike in the UK. Like 2 years ago, right? People were livid, absolutely livid. And it's like, yeah, 50%'s a lot. It doesn't matter what the service is. And look, I use Game Pass every day, every single day. I think it's the best service in gaming. I think even with its price hike, it's still the best deal in gaming. That said, Microsoft should really reverse course, because look, especially in the UK, like nobody has any money, right? Especially with all the things that's going on in the country at the minute, people just want a better deal. And I think it's okay for consumers to want a better deal. So like that's one of the things that I say about, like, what if Microsoft removed Call of Duty from Game Pass? Like, if that was the reason, then I'd say they should do it. However, I don't actually think that is the reason.